Okay, I'm just going to take you through offender profiling. Now, what you need to know is that offender profiling is an investigative tool employed by the police to narrow down the field of inquiry. There are two main approaches, the top-down approach and the bottom-up approach. So the top-down approach was by the Americans, the FBI, in the 1970s. The FBI drew upon data from in-depth interviews of 36 serial killers. Then, the offender profilers using this method match what is known about the crime and the offender to a pre-existing template classified as either organised or disorganised offenders. So, organised offenders have planned the crime, whereas disorganised have not really planned the crime and it was spontaneous. Organised offenders have a high degree of control, whereas disorganised do not. Organised offenders have above average intelligence, disorganised have lower than average. Organised offenders are usually married and may even have children, whereas disorganised offenders have a history of sexual dysfunction and failed relationships. Continuing on. Using the top-down approach, you construct an FBI profile like this. You get the data. This is called data assimilation, where you review all the evidence. You classify the crime scene as either organised or disorganised, and reconstruct the crime, generating hypotheses in terms of the sequence of events. Then you generate the profile, hypotheses related to the likely offender, including demographics and physical characteristics. Now let's evaluate the top-down approach. There are only weaknesses to it. So it only applies to particular crimes such as rape and murder, and it's not appropriate for burglary and vandalism, therefore it's limited. Furthermore, there's contradictory evidence from Cantor et al., who found evidence for a distinct organised type but not a distinct disorganised type, which undermines the classification system as a whole. And finally, the original sample of only 36 serial killers was way too small, so it's unrepresentative. Then there's the bottom-up approach. This is the British approach to generate a picture of the offender, the likely characteristics, the routine behaviour, and the social background. It's data-driven and more grounded in psychological theory. There's two main elements, investigative psychology and geographical profiling. So first of all, investigative psychology. This is where they apply statistical procedures alongside psychological theory using a statistical database as a baseline for comparison. Central to the approach is interpersonal coherence. It is how the offender acts at the scene will reflect how they act in everyday life. There's also the significance of time and place, which may indicate where the offender lives. And forensic awareness is how mindful the offender is about covering up their tracks. Finally, geographical profiling. This is where you make an inference about the likely home or operational base of the offender using crime mapping. It is used in conjunction with investigative psychology to figure out how the offender is thinking. And the assumption is that offenders will be restricted to a geographical area that they are familiar with. This will allow profilers to estimate where they will strike next, which creates a jeopardy surface. Cantor's circle theory proposes two models, marauder and the commuter. And they'll usually create a circle around their usual residence. Now, evaluation. For this, it's actually only strengths, amazingly enough. The supporting evidence for investigative psychology from Cantor and Heritage, with a content analysis of 66 sexual assault cases, several characteristics were identified as common in most cases. They occur in different patterns in different individuals, which helps establish whether two or more offences were committed by the same person. Supporting evidence for geographical profiling also comes from Cantor and Lundgren, who collated 120 murder cases in the USA, and the location of each body disposal site was a different direction of the previous. This created a centre of gravity, which supports the central idea in geographical profiling. And finally, there's a wide application of the bottom-up approach to a range of offences, including burglary, murder and rape, which means that it's more appropriate and more effective than the top-down approach. And that's it. Okay, that's really it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.